Welcome back, everyone. In this lecture, we're going to be discussing primary and foreign keys, fundamental concepts necessary to understand in order to create tables in SQL. Let's start with a primary key. A primary key is a column or a group of columns used to identify a row uniquely in a table. For example, in our DVD rental database, we saw customers had a unique, non-null customer ID column as their primary key. Unique means it has to be distinct for every row, and non-null means there must be an entry there for the primary key. Primary keys are also important since they allow us to easily discern what columns should be used for joining tables together. So let's see an example of a primary key. Here's a subset of a screenshot where we selected everything from a customer. Notice that we have this customer ID column and pgadmin. When you grab table information, it will actually tell you if a column is a primary key for that table by specifying PK or primary key. And so notice this is a unique integer and it's also non-null, which essentially means that every row must have an entry here for customer ID. So this is a customer ID integer that uniquely identifies each customer. You wouldn't want to use something like the first name as a primary key because people can share the same first name. However, they cannot share this unique integer ID. So again, it's integer-based and unique. Later on, we're going to be learning about the serial data type, which is actually a way of automatically creating these unique integers for us as we enter more data into a table. Now let's discuss a foreign key. A foreign key is a field or group of fields in a table that uniquely identifies a row in another table. A foreign key is defined in a table that references to the primary key of the other table. The table that contains the foreign key is called referencing table or child table. The table to which the foreign key references is called reference table or parent table. A table can have multiple foreign keys depending on its relationships with other tables. So for example, recall in the DVD rental database payment table, each payment row had its unique payment ID, which was a primary key for the payment table, and it also identified the customer that made the payment through the customer ID. The customer ID within the payment table is a foreign key, since it references the customer table's primary key. So for example, let's check out and grab a subset here from the payment table. So technically we're grabbing all the columns, but the screenshot only shows a subset. Notice that for the payment table, we have this payment ID, and pgadmin lets you know that it's a primary key because it has PK there. So we have this payment ID, which is a unique identifier for every single payment row. However, you'll also notice that we have other IDs. These other IDs are foreign key references. Now, pgadmin won't directly tell you through a simple query call whether or not a column is a foreign key. We'll discuss how to figure that out in just a little bit. But here we can see we have these customer IDs, staff IDs, and rental IDs. Notice that within the payment table, it's okay if they're repeated because the same customer may have made multiple payments. So these foreign keys, the reason they're foreign keys is they're a reference to a primary key in another table. So a customer ID is a foreign key within payment because it's a primary key within the customer table. Same with staff ID, it's foreign within payment because it's a primary within the staff table. Same with rental. And again, pgadmin won't alert you directly in a simple query call whether or not this is a foreign key. They'll only do that for the primary key. Now, you may have already realized that a primary key and a foreign key typically make good column choices for joining together two or more tables. When creating tables and defining columns, we can use constraints to define columns as being a primary key or attaching a foreign key relationship to another table. And we'll discuss this in more detail when we actually go over the create commands. However, I mentioned that in a simple query call, pgadmin only directly alerts you to something being a primary key and not a foreign key. I want to quickly explore the table properties that are available to us in pgadmin in order to get information on primary and foreign keys through the properties window, since we can't really see them directly through just a simple query call. Let's jump to pgadmin and show you how to understand the foreign keys that are present within a table. Okay, here I am in PG Admin. Recall that we had this example query select everything from payment, and I can see here that every single payment has a unique payment ID as a primary key. But also notice that we have customer ID, staff ID, and rental ID. And just from this query, we can't be 100% sure that it's a direct foreign key. Now, given how much we work with this DVD rental database, we do understand, and we're pretty familiar with the tables enough to understand that this customer ID, staff ID, and rental ID are foreign keys. But how do we actually understand that officially? How can we see the dependencies? Well, if you take a look at DVD rental, we can go ahead and expand schemas here. Give that a little time to load. And as that's expanding, what we're going to see is the public relationships. And then we have tables. So expand on tables. And then we have, scroll down. Let's go ahead and look at the table we're looking at right now, which is the payment table. And then we can expand on this and we can view the columns here. So we have payment ID, customer ID, staff ID, etc. Now, if something is a foreign key, that is technically a constraint on that particular column. And we're going to be discussing constraints in more detail in the next lecture. So let's expand constraints. And notice here, we have certain keys. So there's actually a little key symbol. The golden key symbol is the primary key. So this is the payment primary key. So payment underscore P key for primary key. And notice it shows you that customer ID, rental ID, and staff ID are F keys or foreign keys, shown with another little kind of dual key symbol. So the constraints here will actually alert you to the fact that they are foreign keys within this table. Now there are a few more ways to actually review this information officially. If you want, you can actually select one of these foreign keys. Notice that it's highlighted. And once you select that foreign key, over here on your tabs, right now we're just on the actual query editor tab, go over to dependencies. Click on that and it will show you the dependencies for that particular column and alert you to what tables it's referencing. So notice here we have this customer ID, which is a foreign key within this payment table, and it's referencing, notice here, the customer ID, essentially telling you that under public schema, we have the customer table and the customer ID is that primary key we're referencing. So you can view that under dependencies. One other way to do this is if you right click on this, so right click on that constraint and select properties, it'll actually show you the properties and then you can expand on this to view columns and it will tell you that it's referencing customer ID. So it's referencing that from the public.customer table. So it's just yet another way to actually view what actual primary key it's referencing as a foreign key within the payment table. So lots of different ways you can review this information if you're dealing with a database instead of tables that you're not 100% familiar with. So again, let's imagine we just ran our query. We see these ID columns and we're not 100% sure whether or not they're foreign keys. We simply, underneath this little browser icon, we go ahead, view that table, view the constraints. Right away, this will tell you if they're foreign keys. If you want more details as far as what this actual foreign key is referencing, you right click, go to properties, go to columns. It'll tell you the schema dot table that it's referencing and then the column it's referencing within that table. Okay. So that's how you can figure out more information based off what's available to you in PG Admin for foreign keys. Primary keys, it's a little easier because any query should let you know if it's stated as a primary key constraint. Thanks, and I'll see you at the next lecture.